Yes.
Yes, I'm with Jay from Green TV, and I'm glad that you mentioned the thing about the vote, because I think there is a disconnect with students and adults that when they get involved with environmental issues, they don't realize how voting in your own communities has an effect on protecting what's happening. And that's really important to become aware of. The question is, with regards to climate change, in your opinion, what do you think? Do you think we've passed a point of no return? Do you see mass extinction? Is it feasible with the current political systems?
Okay, generally I don't offer opinions because however hard this may seem to believe, I do not care if you share my opinions on anything. And since I don't care, I don't waste your time and my time sharing my opinions with you, unless you specifically ask me. But then I would wonder, why are you asking? Why do you care about my opinion? Make your own damn opinion. We're different people. So it's not a matter of opinion when you ask me what is going on with extinction. There's discussion now about whether we are in the sixth extinction episode in the biological record. And to the extent that we are, there are explorations about what role humans have played in this. Not only modern humans, but Paleolithic, well, since the dawn of agriculture. And so there's active discussion among people who care about this, whether we are in what's called the Holocene era of life. A name given to Earth as influenced by the conduct of humans. Whereas previously, animals were sort of victims of whatever went on Earth, not the cause of things that went on Earth. And so this is an inversion of the causes and effects of life. And so extinctions are real, and we were responsible for most of them in the modern era. That's not an opinion, that just is. Also, you asked about, I'm sorry, extinctions was in there, what else? Oh, well, where we go? Point of no return. Okay, so you're talking about with climate. Yeah, so no matter what we do with the oil in the ground and all other fossil fuels, humans as a species will survive it, okay? As a species. It's not clear, however, whether civilization, as we have come to build it and create it, will survive it. That's the difference. So there was a time in the past where none of the carbon that is locked in the earth, temporarily locked because we're extracting, there was a time when all of that carbon was not on the earth and in the atmosphere. There was a time when Earth had no polar ice caps at all. Ocean levels were much higher. There was no real winter anywhere on Earth. Earth will survive it. There'll be an ensemble of life forms that'll do just fine. But we humans, coming out of the last ice age, that's the ice age, just to remind you in case you didn't know, when you have an ice age, Earth is sufficiently cold that when the waters from the ocean evaporate, go to the clouds, and the clouds move around, and then they precipitate out over land, if that precipitation is snow, and it's too cold for that snow to melt, then land becomes a repository of ocean water, never to hit a tributary and stream its way back in. So there, in a sense, there is a one-way water cycle. When that happens, the ocean levels drop systematically, and you build huge glacial ice caps. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. Evidence shows that at this time, the glaciers of the north went like halfway down the United States, possibly even lower. At that point, the ocean levels are so low that what we define as coastlines of land masses were completely different from what they are today. Land masses were much larger because you're draining the oceans. And this is what exposed the Bering Strait, the land bridge between Asia and North America. So right about when that bridge exposed, nomadic humans looking for food, looking for anything that'll keep us alive, migrated across that bridge into North America and then down. Right about then, the climate shifts. We emerge from that ice age. Ice ages last thousands of years, by the way. We emerge out of that ice age. The waters trickle back into the ocean levels rise, it breaks the land bridge. And around that time, we begin a sustained, relatively stable period of climate. And it is under those conditions that we invented agriculture, and cities, and transportation, and all of what we've come to know and love about civilization. Our greatest cities are on coastlines. They're on rivers' edges to facilitate transportation. And so, which is commerce and all the other things that drive wealth and the redistribution of wealth in the world. That is the world we've created, given the stability of climate over the past 10,000 years. We are now in the process of changing that at a rate much faster than anything that would ever happen naturally. And so you'll start losing your coastal cities because we're going to melt the ice caps again. Well, like I said, we survived the ice age as hunter-gatherers, right? I mean, nomadic cavemen, essentially. So we'll survive it. But will there be libraries? Will there be technology? Will there be cultures? It's not clear. So is it reversible? Yeah, it should be at this point. I mean, it should be. It's haltable. I don't know if it's reversible. It's haltable. That's how I should say it. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm taking so long to answer these questions. I'll speed up I'll go into soundbite mode. Sorry. Yes, right here, sir.
Gaylord Nelson's daughter recently was told not to talk about climate change in her job here in Wisconsin as helping on the Lands Commission. Is that an example of the science illiteracy you were talking about, or do you have any opinion on that? Yes, I am asking for your opinion on that episode here in Wisconsin.
The issue is not ever the politicians. We've made it a pastime to bash over the head politicians who say something we don't like because they're too rich, or they're too gay, or they're too insensitive, or they're too ignorant, or too smart. This is almost a pastime, right? And at no time do we pause and say, wait a minute, we elect these people into office. So if you have anyone who is in power who fears the emergent scientific truths of this world, the fault lies not in the elected official, but with the people who elected them to office. And in any educational system, institution, it's the job of an educational institution to educate the electorate, or the soon-to-be electorate. So, yeah, you can write articles forever complaining about politicians, but they're not the problem. We like to think of them as the problem. As an educator, it's incumbent upon me and others who are educators to address the electorate. Then maybe they'll elect people who would never even be capable of such a statement, because they would be embedded in objective truths established by the methods and tools of science that have been the foundation of modern civilization. Yeah. That was a shorter answer. I'm doing better. I'm working on it. Okay.
I'm Kelly Tyrell. I'm a science writer here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Can science use more celebrities like you, especially to promote more scientific literacy?
This is kind of a new model. I mean, we've had Carl Sagan. Einstein was a science celebrity. He wrote for the public extensively. So I'm not doing it first. What's a little new about this is we have the world of social media, and social media creates other kinds of cult status, variations of cult status, and I don't ever want someone to say that something's true because they heard me say it. I would have failed as an educator if that's. When I'm in that capacity, I think it's my task to train you how to think about this world, how to think about data, how to think about skepticism, how to think about claims. Then you become empowered and you become inoculated against people who would be charlatans manipulating information and data for their own gain and not for the greater good. And not for the truth of what science has revealed about the operations of nature. So that's kind of new, the social media dimension of this. Sure, but I don't think you need me. You just need a cultural embrace of science as something that occurs all around us every day, and that's already happening. The #1 show on television in any genre is The Big Bang Theory. Other shows, CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, which features scientists solving crimes using scientific methods and tools. And they're good-looking people who have fully fleshed out profiles, not the weird scientists behind the lab table with the wiry hair and the lab coat, and you don't care whether they're married or have kids, or they're not even real. They're just information for you. That was a kind of an emasculation or a disemboweling of what a scientist is. It's a caricature of a scientist. Not scientists are people, and they have senses of humor, and they love, and they hate, they have emotions. The more that is shown in the context of scientists, the less scary, perhaps, a scientist will be to people. And the more open you would be to learning science, because you'll realize it's all around you, not something you can step over or dig under or ignore just because you don't feel like it. Yes? Okay. Okay, how about I'll take 2 questions and I'll answer each one in half the time. The math works out on that. Yes, go.
Conference title is Hard Science, Tough Choices. What's the hardest science we need to confront and the toughest choice we need to make as a society?
Hard science, tough choices. I don't see choices as tough. I think when all the data manifest, the choices are easy. You have tough choices if you try to make a decision before you have enough data to help you. But otherwise, if you're data-driven, data make the choices for you. This is not a problem. Hard science, physics and math can be hard, but learning them can be quite rewarding. They're windows into how the universe works. That can be empowering and enlightening. And we should embrace what is hard rather than fear it, because only then do you elevate your capacity to solve problems. Hence you get the quote from John Kennedy, "We choose to go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard." And too many students, I think, go to college and they choose classes based on how easy they are so that they can get high grades, so they can show people their GPA. When in fact, as any adult knows, after your first job, no one even cares what your GPA is. Are you a good problem solver? Are you moral? Do people follow you? You have a good work ethic? There's the rest of the dimensionality of what it is to be human that ends up mattering after you worry about your grades. And your ability to solve problems, having taken hard courses, will distinguish you from everyone else. That's what it is for you to take a hard course. Take an easy course, you are guaranteeing to be not indistinguishable from others when it's time to look for a job. Yes?
Hi, Mike Alexander from the Clarion News. In the past, our presidents have been selected who have a religious background or a military background. When do you think that we're going to have a president with a scientific background?
Yeah, we almost had one with Ben Franklin. He was the world's best-known scientist in his day for his research in electricity. I don't know why he never ran for president, and American historians would know better than I would. That was as close as the next best person we had was Thomas Jefferson, who was, a polymath, really. Good at math and engineering and physics, and designed his own home, this sort of thing. And if you read his writings, it's clear he had deep scientific awareness. and deep scientific literacy. I think there may be presidents that have had science literacy. President Carter, Jimmy Carter, was scientifically literate. I think President Clinton, George Clinton, Bill Clinton, thank you. George Clinton is that's a different person. You don't have to be a scientist to run the country. You just have to be scientifically literate and more importantly, know when you don't know something so that you go find someone who does. That's what you want in a leader. Yeah, it would be interesting if we had a scientist as a president, but I don't think it's a prerequisite to getting science back on the table. By the way, I've been talking about science this whole time. I don't require of you to care about science. I'm here to tell you simply that since the Industrial Revolution and before, we have come to recognize that there is no greater engine of economic growth than innovations in science and technology. So if you care about economic growth, then you should care about innovations in science and technology. If you don't care about economic growth, and you want to vote that way, go ahead. This is a free country, or at least we tell ourselves that. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm not going to debate you. Vote that way, and then you have leaders who are not scientifically literate, and they'll make decisions that are not scientifically informed, and then the economy basically grinds to a halt. It's my duty to tell you that. And now you go vote how you want, and I go home, and you go home. So you want a president who knows how to listen to people. If they don't have the specific expertise, you might ask of them in advance. The worst case is a leader who thinks they know what they're talking about and don't, and doesn't know what they're talking about. That's the worst. That is a recipe for disaster, because then you're wielding power in vacuums of ignorance. I don't know what country that is. I hope it never becomes the United States, because then this country transforms into something which were not the principles it was founded on. Wow. I went a little long there, I'm sorry. But they started it. It's their fault. They asked me all these long question answer things. I saw I didn't get to everybody, but there was a lot in all those answers, right? Plus you're coming tonight? I mean, this afternoon? Okay. Yeah, there's more there.